Good morning. This is Jeff Gitterman on the Impact on FinTech TV down on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. I'm joined on this morning's show by Jason Petralia. Jason is the CEO and co-founder of Anthropogenic. Jason, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So we always like to start the show by kind of figuring out, why are people doing impact? Why are you not Palantir? Why are you anthropogenic? Where was the fork in the road that maybe put you on the direction of impact versus traditional finance metrics?
Well, there wasn't an actual inflection point in my life. Over a decade ago, I actually had won a project at the time to build an application that accompanies at-home dialysis machines for a company called Next Stage. It was the only at-home dialysis system in the world. So we won this contract. Same week, I learned that my brother had kidney failure.
Oh, wow.
And 4 years later, he was using the machine and actually using the software that we provided. So it immediately, that was a direct link to impact. And that ultimately changed my life. The probability of that happening, it's an incredible coincidence, but it's really to say, if I'm going to be building software and systems, I might as well be building systems that not only can be profitable, but can actually have purpose as well. And he ultimately did get a kidney, and he's still with us. And but it was just incredible resilience and confidence. So that was a life-changing moment for me.
So when you thought about starting Anthropogenic, what was the problem that you were trying to address?
Sure. Well, I was also an investor, so had some a few early exits, and I was looking at making some investments where they were impact-linked claims, and it was, as a technologist, it felt like the PDFs and all the data that we were looking at was really antiquated, and I was frustrated with that situation. And I thought, there's ubiquitous sensors and data out there, and even real-time intelligence is possible. Why isn't this available for financial markets readily available? So for me, it was and the first version of Anthropogenic we launched was really focused on just pure impact-linked financing and real-time radical transparency. We've evolved from then, but it was definitely deep frustration with the data that was available.
And how does Anthropogenic solve the problems that you were frustrated by?
So at Anthropogenic, we've brought in some of the best military minds in the world that make real-time decisions in a very different paradigm when we're thinking about national security. But you take that level of rigor to, and we call it truth, trust, transparency, and timeliness, of course. And in the military, they say sense makes sense, act. So the ability to capture all that data, readily available data from public and private institutions, transform that data.
Give us some examples of the kind of data that you're capturing.
Absolutely. So it could be space. We could talk about European Space Agency data, so Sentinel, NASA, NOAA, weather data, systems data, IoT data. People talk about the Internet of Things. There is so much data out there, but our ability to make sense of it reasonably is a big challenge for some of the largest institutions in the world. And we gather all of that, and with our partners, we have a number of incredible partners, and we bring it all together in a single dashboard, which eventually has emerged into a command center interface.
So what are the type of companies that are using Anthropogenic?
Sure. So one that I love is we have a partner called Nadamco Africa, and they're working with a number of partners in Ethiopia where we are developing a national command center with them. And so when you look at, we have space data, there's actual sensor data for water systems. So we can look at water system health, the quality of water in real time. Could you imagine if we could do that here in New York? Somebody maybe can, but I don't have that access. And so we build these systems. In Ethiopia, they have two major hazards nationally: floods and drought. So so they either have too much water or not enough, and they also need to feed their people, and they also need to have clean and renewable energy for them. Most of their energy is from hydro. So how do you balance all that out? Well, the answer, of course, is a command center such as the one that we are providing those partners. They're currently being featured all around the world, and we're really excited about them. But again, that is an environmental command center. We have another partner that's actually extracting lithium from wastewater in the Permian Basin, which is extraordinary. So can you imagine that? Wastewater and getting lithium out in the United States. So we're working with them on their command center for what they believe is the lowest, the lowest carbon produced lithium in the world. But actually having a system to prove that is critical for them.
So you talked about military people being involved with
Yes.
Anthropogenic. What is the draw for them in getting involved with you?
So, they are hardwired to, defense is really protected, right? So, and threats can come in the form of weapons, but they can also come in the form of environmental threats. They can come in the form
Weather.
Exactly. I mean, look at Jamaica. I mean, if you had the data about the system that came and you were fully prepared, they would have saved them billions of dollars. It's yet to be fully reported what's happening there, and they see this. I mean, I've spoken to folks with the military where they can see, environmental disasters from space, and they're not positioned to do anything about it. For example, the Galapagos, the fishery there,
Right.
they're not there to protect that, but it's an international asset.
And also you think about it, I mean, I've been reading for years, most military bases are at sea level. And the military has been warning about climate disasters and building climate resilience into the military for really, from my view, at least a decade that they've been writing about this.
And the East Coast, I mean, right now, the erosion, a lot of these are military facilities that are really under stress and duress. We could look at whether it's melting permafrost in Alaska, try to land a plane, on that. I mean, it's next to impossible. So there is definitely it's obvious. I mean, it's a key part of our own security. I mean, our very life system is here to protect us. And
So when you're pitching Anthropogenic, are you pitching it to countries? Are you pitching it to cities, communities, companies? Where's the sale occur?
yes, so our ICP, as we say, our ideal customer profile is really, we would say, sophisticated, data-rich organizations that are really struggling to make sense of it all, where they may be working with multiple domains. So they may have an energy problem and they may have a food problem at the same time. So where things get really sophisticated, and this quarter we actually we're working with Stanford's. They have a class that's working with us on an energy project. So we're really excited to have their support. But we go after, I would say, again, mountains of data. Could be national. It could be a publicly traded company, and everyone's struggling to make sense out of AI and turn AI into ROI. That's a common challenge we're seeing across the board, and we can help with that.
Right now we're just seeing unemployment due to AI, but we're not seeing the massive positive impacts of it just yet, for sure. What is the role of private wealth and family offices in creating sustainable infrastructure and more public impact infrastructure?
Well, I certainly see these, family office capital as really being truly catalytic in that space. So the pipes, the data networks, the infrastructure to really enable the future of impact-linked financing, the future of tracking these intangible areas of value. They can be more patient, and they can lead the way.
It's interesting, you said something before that I've been talking about on this show for probably 10 years now, is that climate change is invariably a water problem. It's either too little water or too much water. That's what you're facing. Yes, heat too, and you could add that, but what heat leads to is droughts, or it ultimately can also lead to more heavy downpours and more larger storm systems. So when you talk about that, is the tracking that Anthropogenic is doing really able to track water systems and see how future droughts might be impacted in countries?
So the short answer is absolutely. And I'll give you three kind of AI rungs, because we are ultimately an AI based data platform. The first step is to be able to describe what's happening right now. And a lot of businesses can't do this. And if you're in charge of a country, or if you're leading that country, understanding your weather systems, your water dynamics now is critical. And then eventually you can predict. I mean, we're still terrible at predicting earthquakes, but we're pretty great, at least within a certain window, of predicting various weather phenomena. And then, of course, the last tier, of course, when you have all that data, you can start to prescribe action. So, for example, where would our capital be best spent on resilience for the highest return on investment globally? And you can do that with AI in a spectacular way.
So is the impact world ready for radical transparency?
This is a tough one for me. Candidly, I think in spirit we are ready. I think organizations often don't even know necessarily all their intangible values themselves. They're not measuring and monitoring and frankly reporting on a lot of these areas. And so I think the next stage is really enabling them to understand their own outcomes and really leverage impact for output, leverage impact, which is a driver for the intangible. Let's say measuring the intangibles to drive it and link it to value.
It's the one thing that I hope from AI, because right now we're caught in these storyline extremes of the far right and the far left. And, if you put impact on the far left, they're still caught in their own biases. And the ability to have dialogue and have conversations across aisle is so suspect and so fraught with hatred, unfortunately, that we're not having those dialogues that we really need to have, whether it's in Washington or whether it's on Wall Street. We really need, like you said, radical transparency to say, okay, these are the facts that we're dealing with this today, and this is, if we don't deal with that, this is going to be the cost of that, versus if we do deal with that, it's going to be the cost savings of that. And you're saying Anthropogenic can help in some of these areas, certainly.
So it is, and I think enabling organizations to truly understand and measure and really manage their impact. So everyone, if you can reduce your energy costs, that's gonna link to alpha, and that's also happens to be good for the environment. So there is this virtuous cycle when you really start to manage these intangibles, and we can help. Some of the most competitive organizations, we see it as a significant advantage, and so do they.
So how can AI help rebuild the trust in the financial system that we are just talking about? We're kind of stuck in this he said, she said model right
Yes. Now. Well, I mean, the burden, for reporting is pretty massive. I think a lot of organizations really struggle with that, but AI can lead through, incredible amounts of data incredibly quickly. And right now I think we're getting to that validation side, and it could really assist us in validating, what's true, what's not. Let's just get, the signal to noise ratio could really be improved with AI, enabling investor confidence.
So in the mode of radical transparency, you're an AI company. We're dealing with two impacts on global warming right now. One is that the warmer it gets, the more air conditioners people are using, which is driving up energy costs. And two is data center demand is also radically driving up energy costs. Yet you see that AI can also be a hero in this story and not just a villain in this story.
I do, and there's some really interesting reports around also just the AI adoption is actually leading to a more, we'll say renewable energy stack, because a lot of those energy sources can be spun up much faster. I mean, you're not turning on a coal power plant in a night,
or nuclear or natural gas. Backups on natural gas turbines are 5 to 7 years now.
Exactly. Yeah. And when we look at this AI solutions, I mean, we can help, not only with resilience planning, but also I think the climate models, the global climate models of really what do we need to do, I think it can really guide us through this tumultuous time.
So look into the future, 5 years from now, you think AI is more of a hero in the climate change story?
It will be I think there'll be a duality. It'll be a bit of hero and villain kind of. It'll be both, and it's really because it's ultimately the most powerful tool that humanity has maybe ever created, and it's how we use it. It'll be really up to us, frankly.
Right. Well, we don't have a great track record as human beings of using tools for right, but we did stop nuclear war, so maybe we can have the same kind of global agreements on AI use and where that goes into the future. So I am at heart an optimist, so I hope you're right, and I hope AI helps win the day. Thomas Friedman said last year in the New York Times, the two things that could destroy humanity are climate change and AI. Our only hope is that AI can solve climate change in time.
Yes.
So from his words to our mouth to our ears, hopefully he's right. Thanks so much, Jason, for being on the show today.
I really appreciate that, and we can instill the ethical guardrails in our AI systems of the future. And there are other systems. I mean, we have a proxy voting AI decision-based system for that we've developed at Anthropogenic that really revolutionizes the burden for proxy voting, leveraging AI. That's just one example. That's large institutions are really taking notice of that work. So we'll really appreciate the opportunity to speak today.
Great.
And,
I mean, look, I always had hope that between blockchain and AI that we can create a very transparent world. And ultimately, in a transparent world, hopefully the intention of humanity is to act for good. We just need that transparency for sure.
And look, in the future, we will see significant improvements in efficiency with these AI systems. Right now, they are building them without any handcuffs. They're saying, let's just get more GPU. We can worry about efficiency later. So I will say, keep an eye out for the efficiency era for AI. I think that's coming.
Awesome. Jason, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you so much.
That's it for the Impact on FinTech TV. I'm your host, Jeff Gitterman. Until next time.